Each week we read from a book by Swami Kriyananda called Rays of the One Light. It's commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita. And this week's reading is entitled The Infinite Christ. It's a rather difficult reading, and it's very long. I'm going to abbreviate it a little bit. And essentially what is being discussed here are subtle truths that we inclined to just not fully grasp. We have our own limited capabilities, our human capabilities, and sometimes that which is cosmic just sort of goes over our heads a little bit. But that doesn't mean we don't think we know what we're doing. We often have very strong opinions about things, and there's a very interesting and humorous exchange in this particular reading, an exchange between a disciple of Paramahansa Yogananda by the name of Devi and Yogananda himself, who is trying to explain something. This is Yogananda speaking. The saint who attains that exalted consciousness, that consciousness of the infinite, never says, "I am God," for he sees it was the vast ocean that became his little wave of ego. The wave, in other words, would not claim when referring to the little self to be the ocean itself. At this juncture, Devi cried excitedly, "But sir, if you are one with that ocean, that means that you are God." "Why I?" Master asked. "Say he is God." "But still, sir, you are one with him, and he is the only reality. That means you too are God." "But this body is not God." "You aren't identified with your body, sir, so you may still say that you are God." "Well, in that case, why do you say you? You too are that." In a discussion of this sort, it's less confusing if we say he. But what's the difference? It's only your humility, sir, that makes you distinguish between yourself and him. How can there be humility when there is no consciousness of ego, Master replied. Triumphantly, Devi cried, "But if you have no ego left, that means you are God." Master laughingly continued the earlier statement, which Devi had interrupted. "The scriptures say, he who knows Brahma becomes Brahma." "There," cried Devi, "you said it yourself." Master rejoined, still laughingly, "I didn't say it. It's the scriptures that say so." Master, in other words, would not identify those words with the human body speaking them. It was his overarching spirit that he saw himself one with the infinite. But Devi was unable to make this mental leap from a pure expression of infinity to infinity itself. "You quoted those scriptures, sir. That means you agree with them." Recognizing that the distinction was perhaps too subtle for many to grasp, Master concluded, "Well, he who says he is God isn't God." And he added with a smile, "He who says he isn't." And there the subject rested amid general laughter. The greater a spiritual teaching, the more greatly we betray it by particularizing it with dogmas. Truth itself incarnates on earth with the birth of a self-liberated master. As the Bhagavad Gita teaches in the 4th chapter, unborn, changeless, Lord of creation and controller of my cosmic nature though I am, yet entering nature I am dressed in the cosmic garment of my own Maya, delusion. O Bharata, whenever virtue declines and vice predominates, I incarnate on earth, taking visible form, I come to destroy evil and reestablish virtue. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. The infinite Christ, we could say the infinite Krishna. It's a very easy thing to think we understand intellectually, and at a cosmic level is really quite a bit more than that. A month ago, we celebrated Christmas, the birth of Jesus Christ, who is the first in our lineage of avatars. To acknowledge him correctly, we really should say Jesus the Christ, because the title is one of the highest reference. It isn't merely the surname of somebody who went into the summit of self-realization. And this is especially important for us to remember, because this is our quest also. This is what we are moving towards. Someday, in some incarnation, hopefully soon, there will also be a Tatun the Christ, and a Madhukarji the Christ. The masters have said that freedom in God is our destiny, each and every one of us. But we still have quite an upward journey to complete, don't we? My own list of challenges to overcome is not a short one. When I think of the desires, the attachments, the habits that I have yet to master, it's a rather daunting challenge. As you can imagine, you probably, if you think about it, can be easily daunted by the challenges that you face as well. This planet, we so easily can trip and stumble and sometimes fall in our quest to overcome delusion. Why is that? It's because it's such a hugely attractive force. It is. It's just everywhere. It's in all the people around us, as well as all of the things and all of the events and experiences. This planet has so many goodies that we can give into, avenues that can lead to fame and fortune, the lure of power and influence, and sensuality, which seems to be around nearly every corner that we turn. And so we are inclined at times to trip and to fall in our efforts to overcome this. And what we need to understand is that we are more than all of these things, all of these experiences that do trip us up from time to time. We have this reading, this rather humorous exchange between Devi and Master. And what it points out is our tendency to think that we know more than we do. It's very easy to fall into that. We're smart people, and we like to think that we sort of know what we're doing, and yet it's exactly this trap that we fall into that causes us to delude ourselves. And in that delusion, or from that delusion, I should say, we as a world create all kinds of systems and institutions which are often founded on misguided principles. And those principles stick They become part of the culture, part of the society, and we become conditioned by them as well. You know, when delusion opens the door, mischief will find its way in, and that describes a great deal of what we encounter in this outside world. The infinite Christ that abides in every soul offers us a beacon of light that can work through, help us to work through those confusions, those delusions, confusion. What we need to do is realize that we are more than we have been conditioned to believe that we are, that we have Christ capability, and that what we need to do is not so much learn more, but to unlearn a great deal of what has allowed us to accept these limitations in our lives. We have become complex, and what we need to remember most of all is how to be simple. Not simple-minded, but simple. When I was in college, I majored in history, and it's been a subject, a field that I've followed all my life. I find it very, very interesting, and I think that it is also a field of study that is very underrated in this era of specialized, high-tech concentration. Not that that's bad at all. But what history has shown us is that we are often too smart for our own good. And all you have to do is look around for the evidence of that. Despite our very impressive mental capacity, we often misuse it, don't we? Because we don't necessarily think ahead of the consequences that what we seek to accomplish may result in. I mentioned that we've become complex. Look at the so-called lower animals. They don't have that problem, do they? They don't suffer from delusion, as near as I can tell. They don't have our analytical and our creative faculties. Poor fellows, they have to rely on instinct to get whatever it is that they require. But to their credit, they also don't weave the tangled webs that we are very capable of weaving in our world. And they live according to their means, and they live in the moment. We, on the other hand, have the ability to dwell in the past, to plan far into the future. The moment for us is just an option, isn't it? And many people, don't spend very much time there. That's certainly one of the things that we strive for in our meditation, is to really be here now. So here we are. We're at the top of the food chain. We have the ability to reason and to rationalize, to invent and to produce. And where is it getting us? We also sort of convince ourselves that we are the ones that have the power to do whatever it is that we want to do. And in a sense, this is true. We do have the ability to choose. And in that ability, we also have the capacity to sink or swim, depending upon what our moods and motivations may be. We are free to choose. But there's a downside as well to the gift of choice. And it occurs especially karmically when we forget where our power really comes from. Fear, worry, doubt, envy, angers, sorrow, suffering, all these are choices that we can make as well, aren't they? And some of us are very skilled at staying in touch with those negative characteristics. Much of our trouble is that we have been socially trained to be insecure. We certainly put on a good face, and try to fool everybody into thinking that isn't necessarily the case. But we have accepted insecurity. And if you look around at the world, a whole bunch of people just sort of pretending to do what they're doing. You have the world that we live in today, a very insecure place. It's, I always think of it kind of like an asylum that's run by the inmates. Kind of is, I think we're doing a little better than most people, but, what we have to remember is what a gift we have. I said that I have a rather daunting list of challenges to overcome, but the good news is I've come to the right place, and so have you. We have the gift of these gurus to guide us, the gift of them in our lives. We have the wisdom of their teachings. We have divine friendship, especially with Swami Kriyananda, whether or not you ever knew him. If it were not for him, none of us would be in this room right now. We have Kriya Yoga, practice of Kriya Yoga to burn up the karma that we generate. We're very blessed, but we have to exercise that blessing too. In our purification ceremony, I think most of you are probably familiar with it. But in that ceremony, the devotee receives a message. And the message comes from the Guru, who is the infinite Christ in consciousness and in truth. The Guru says, "Open your heart to me, and I will enter and take charge of your life." What a promise that is. It's a promise to guide us over and beyond all of that insecurity that derails our peace of mind and our ultimate bliss. Swami Kriyananda showed us exactly what it takes to do that, to give ourselves to the Guru, let that Guru take charge of our lives. And what did he exhibit most of all as a result of that? Peace of mind, bliss. Every day of his life, he modeled that for us. He lived Jesus' words, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you." What are all these things? They're not things that we go out and buy or things that we wear. They're the 8 aspects of God: peace, calmness, wisdom, power as in self-control, love, joy, sound, and light. When we have all of that, there is nothing else to need, or even to want. In our Kriyaban book study class, we're reading In Divine Friendship, which is a collection of letters by Swami Kriyananda, letters of counsel to devotees. And in one of those letters, he quotes from the great Christian mystic Meister Eckhart, who said, "I move my hand, and Christ moves, who is my hand." There is no separation. That infinite Christ exists already within our souls. We just have to remember how to be in touch with it. And, it's seeking the kingdom of God first. It's not a casual pastime. And what we experience, a lot of people, that's really pretty scary. Because what it is asking us to do is surrender the little self in us into the cause of reaching our highest potential, our divine potential. We can do that. But most people think they're just too busy to make that commitment. No, I've got too much to do. I mean, I'll give you a couple hours a day, but more than that, I have a lot to do. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be responsible in the ways that we need to be within this world. But let's remember where the power comes from. Let's remember that infinite Christ within ourselves. Is it a difficult task to do that? Oh yeah, it is. You're shaking your head no, but it's a very difficult task, because what we're up against is the tyranny of our own limited reasoning. We think we know what we're doing. What are we afraid of? We're afraid to let go of being who we have been taught to be. This is what we know for the most part. Thank goodness we have each other, the support of our Sangha, of our divine friendships, of these people, to help us move forward and to be willing to surrender that little self into the higher consciousness that we aspire to. Let's affirm that we can do this, that we can be the spirits, the high potential that we strive for. It's just on the other side of who we are now. Just on the other side.
Yeah. I just want to say a couple things.
Yeah, please.
Surrender mentioned that we need to keep it simple. And when I was a little girl, I believed that God lived in heaven, and he was an old man, with white hair, and snow white beard, and he sat on a golden throne, and he had angels all around him, and some of them had wings, and some of them were still working on it. I figured that was one of them. But he seems so far away. If he lived in heaven, he lives up there in heaven, and I live down here, and that's a long way to reach. And so I thought, well, how do I get there? Well, we learned to say different prayers. When I was a little girl, we had a prayer every night. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. And so from that was sort of a connection for me. But God doesn't live in heaven, thank goodness. He's closer than we can imagine. Because in truth, he's the breath that is now flowing into your body. He's the breath that flows through our heart. Every time we take a breath, we are affirming the presence of God within us. So we can keep it simple. You know, our minds want to just particularize everything and organize it, and that just gets us more confused. You know, all the things that Surrender mentioned is so true. You know, we learned anger, we learned how to be disappointed. We didn't come with that. You know, we just came with a divine soul. And yes, we brought stuff with us, you know, from past, you know, our bag of self-definitions. But the Swami, every week in Rays of the One Light, he says, truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it and your deathless self within. Every week he's planting a seed. And have we listened? Have we nurtured that seed? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it and your deathless self within. And the masters come to help us along the way. I mean, we don't just have one guru, we have 5. I mean, that's a force, and you're sitting right now at their feet. And it's about vibration. You know, Christ, the infinite Christ is a vibration. Christ consciousness. I read somewhere once that Christ is the unmoving stillness at the center of every spinning atom. Think about that. Christ is the unmoving stillness at the center of every spinning atom. Now, Master, he didn't talk too much about atoms, but what did he talk about? Lifetrons. Yes? When we're doing our energization, we're just trying to illuminate the body, illuminate the lifetrons within us. And the lifetron, he explained, is finer than atomic energy. It's an intelligence that's endowed with divine power. Now, if you think about how many cells we have in this body, that's an incredible power. And how do we tap into it? We remember the presence within our breath. You know, when we go to sleep at night, when we're ready to go to bed, that's the time to say an affirmation. The masters came to remind us that our body is more space than it is matter, that our inner reality is deathless and formless. And so when we go to bed at night, we want to give everything back. You know, it all came from the divine, so if the good, bad, it's yours. You know, sometimes you say, here, take it. I know I was teasing in our class, and sometimes you say, beam me up. I want to get out of here. You know, because we go around and around and around. But we don't have to. We affirm our inner reality. Just tune into your breath. So when you go to sleep tonight, affirm that you're a child of light, because you are. And in the morning, if you wake up and take a breath, you've just affirmed the presence of God. It's that simple. So take a breath. Yeah. So guess what? You're surrounded by, you're breathing in the infinite Christ. God bless you.